The word disruption about 3 years ago became a very significant word, and it carries quite a lot of baggage. I used to think it was really just an interruption to the public transport or a traffic jam that you or some road work that you had to get around. But no, clearly, in all seriousness, this word has come to represent quite significant changes in industries, and in your industry, in our industry, it is a very relevant word. But I think sometimes we think about it a little too much with fear and trepidation. And so what I want to talk to you about today is some techniques for actually managing disruption that we have been using in ANZ for a couple of years now at least, and have found as a way to face into the changes that our customers and our suppliers are experiencing. So that's what we're going to look into. But first, just a little bit about digital at ANZ. So we have a number of solutions for customers across a range of different segments, and a number of really signature experiences that our customers love. And the one I want to talk about first is ANZ Go Money, which has been around for 5 or so years and was one of the first mobile apps to market for a bank in Australia. And it remains the most engaged customer banking app in Australia. So our customers are in Go Money every single day. So it's a very, very significant part of our relationship with our customers. And I'm sure we've got some ANZ Go Money customers in the audience. Yep, cool. And on top of that, we have a number of experiences that we've launched recently to market. This is just to give you a perspective across a range of experiences. So ANZ Shield is a new security app that allows you to do more things in your internet and Go Money banking. And we've recently launched a watch experience to see balances and last 5 transactions. For those of you who are right at the forefront of technology there and have moved into the watch. And FastPay is an app for merchants or small traders who are out on the road doing maintenance and things for people, and it allows them to take a payment via a credit card, so the plumbers and carpenters, etc. And also in the middle we talk about there our digital sales experiences. So while these are not apps, branded experiences, they're a very, very significant part of our customer relationship, as increasingly people are turning to digital tools to make their banking purchases and to purchase product. So that's a very big part of our business. And we've recently won an award for our credit cards experience on the mobile. And that I encourage you to download. Actually, I do need to apologise. I did ask for a small edit to my presentation since last time because Twitter's so big at this conference. I thought I'll put my handle up there and ANZ's handle, and then my dear team put it on every single page. So I do apologise. I'm not really trying to promote my Twitter handle quite that much. But anyway. I didn't want to leave you with the wrong impression. Okay, so why is disruption such an issue, particularly for a bank? And specifically, if we look at what's out there. So we're talking about large digital companies and digital only. They don't have all the legacy stuff that we have to deal with. And, there's no doubt that there are potentially some significant threats out there for us. And if you look at just Apple's global customer base, over 600 million people, if they decided to do something in banking, it would be very significant. And obviously you'd be aware they're moving into some elements of the payments experience. And then there's all the startups that are out there. And there's an analogy that someone gave me of San Francisco Airport. Every week, 4,000 planes take off from San Francisco Airport. And if you think of that as 4,000 startups, they don't all start in San Francisco. There's great hubs in Israel and various other places. But if all of those represent a startup, You've got to work out, we as incumbents need to work out, well, you know, if they've got a good pilot, have they got a good co-pilot, have they got enough fuel to make the distance? And so therefore, are they going to come and take some of our revenue or some of our customers from us? So this is a very relevant activity and companies need to do this. But, you know, incumbents, they're boring, they're stuffy, they can't change, right? Well, the answer is no. And also, incumbents have opportunities to disrupt as well. And often the emphasis and the reflection or the looking is all external, but there are definitely opportunities for incumbents. Okay, so one of the examples, there are lots of examples I can give you about disruption, and Daniel alluded to them as well. I'm not going to do that. What I actually want to talk about is one case study of two large incumbents in the UK, and apologies to anyone who has a deep experience of these two companies. I've been watching them from afar in the room, but you may understand that John Lewis has done a lot of very simple, very progressive and just step-by-step iterations to their experiences for customers in the retail space. And by doing that, what they've been able to do is increase their sales across their physical and their digital channels by about 8% per year, every year for the last 5 to 6 years. And the fact that they've taken that approach is completely contrasted with Marks and Spencer's, who went away, took their website effectively, their plans for their website away, put it in a big project, spent 2 years designing, did the designs, then spent 2 years implementing it, re-released it to market, or released it to market, and sales dropped straight away because they hadn't stayed close enough to their customer. And in their designing and in going away for 2 years, they had lost touch with the most common pathways that their customers took through their site, and it took them quite a long time to recover that position. So incumbents can win and they can also lose, and one of the principles behind this case study is the ways of working. So I don't know this for sure, but I can tell from what's happening for John Lewis in the market that they have a much more agile and a much more small parcel approach to their delivery. So let's get into the toolkit. So the first one's kind of obvious, but you know, how many experiences do you have of companies where you go, oh gee, that was annoying, or some step in the process doesn't work? So removing friction is one of the most important things we can do for our customers. And the only way to do that is to actually sit and do the experience. So one of the examples I talk about and that we use in terms of what's changed at ANZ, in our sales process, I went one day and actually tried to apply for a credit card online and noticed that we were telling customers it takes 20 minutes to do this, up to 20 minutes to do this. And I went, oh, I don't know that I really want to spend 20 minutes. Anyway, we changed that to a little more than 5 minutes, because that was actually the truth. It wasn't taking 20 minutes. It was a little more than 5 minutes, and sales went up by 5 times. Now, those things don't get you into the news or the press, but those are the things that really change the financial outcomes for the business and the customer satisfaction. So removing friction is a really important principle, and I talk about it. You've got to be relentless about it, because as soon as you remove that piece of friction, there's another one that comes up to the surface ready to be improved. The second one is partnering with technology. In a large company, technology is a very significant partner, but it's also a very significant team to shape and influence and get to work with the team. So often what happens is that technology have slightly different business objectives, and these are good business objectives. It's actually the end that makes us successful, but they're good business objectives. However, they don't necessarily encourage speed to market. So total cost of ownership of systems, reusing systems, etc. Are great principles to have, but in a digital world, the likelihood of systems lasting for a long, long time and being useful for a long, long time
especially in the customer-facing part of the business, is less likely. And you know, we're now starting to talk about if we get 5 years out of a system, we'll be doing really well. The only way we found to change this was building relationships. So the other part I haven't talked about in terms of technology, but architecture is a big part of that, reducing total cost of ownership and planning for core systems. And so we needed to change our strategy or our system around content management. And we are launching in a couple of months the Adobe, our .com site on the Adobe Experience Manager suite. That wasn't on the technology roadmap, but relationship and working really closely with the business allowed us to make that shift and to get moving towards where we needed to be to allow for fast publishing and to integrate our analytics. So I can't emphasise enough the importance of building relationship, because that's actually what changed. It wasn't, in the final analysis, it wasn't really analysing lots of systems that changed our direction and enabled us to move forward. The third one is build a garage, and I think you've heard from Eric today where he talked about sort of overemphasis on a startup mentality and everybody being like a startup. My view is a small team actually being given the space to behave like a startup is going to be more powerful than everybody trying to be like a startup, because in large organisations, process and risk management and controls are actually important, especially in banking. So creating a space to allow for people to try and experiment. And we've heard a fantastic story from Daniel about just that, why not? So I have a small garage in my team, and we have worked through a number of different ideas and been able to mock those up into prototypes that have allowed the business to feel that some things are possible that they might not otherwise have thought were possible. And one of the examples I'll give you here was around appointment booking, which is in a large distribution business like the ANZ, there's many, many sales points and many, many sales teams. And so organising an appointment system for customers to digitally organise the time that they want to go and see someone had been tried many times before and was considered to be just very, very difficult. And so in the garage we mocked up and explored a concept, and that allowed the organisation to get very excited and to start to move towards that. And that's now on our roadmap for our customers. Seeking innovation, and the other side of this story, this is about scanning the market. Not necessarily for those planes that are going to come and land and take your lunch. This is also about looking for capability that you can, as a large organisation, ingest to accelerate delivery to market for customers. And the example here was also in that appointment booking experience, and we found a startup that wasn't even working in banking, and we got them to pivot to think about how we could apply their solution, and they were in the calendar management business. And so that was what allowed us to really very quickly stand up an experience, and we put it in market and tested it with customers. And again, that's what built the confidence across the organisation to really start to solve that. I was being phoned before we started this process by some quite senior people telling me this would never ever work. So that's kind of in some ways why I asked Daniel the question, you know, how did you keep going? Because there's lots of reasons why we shouldn't do things, and there's lots of reasons where people don't feel confident that something's going to work. But having the persistence to hang in there. And my answer to them at that time was, give me 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks, not very expensive, a little bit of time, and then come to the showcase and you will see, and then we can decide after that. They came to the showcase and they said, can I have it next week? So the power of showing people what is possible, of seeking innovation and using external people to help accelerate delivery is part of the toolkit of a digital business. The final one is build smaller boxes. Now, I think you will have had quite a bit of a chat about Agile today, so I'm not going to go into the sort of technicalities of Agile, but I'm going to talk to you about it from a commercial perspective. Why do I think it's really important? And I think one of the reasons we've been able to make such a significant change over the last couple of years has been working with a concept of minimum marketable product or minimum viable product. And, you know, to be completely honest, I'm not always popular when I bring this topic up. And my reflection on why this is comes from an analogy. I'm moving from planes to cars now. But let's just say there's an area of your business that you want to have fixed, and it goes into the garage, the technology, so the car's in the garage, and while it's in there, people start to say, oh, well, could you just fix this as well? Maybe we could have that, and a change request list becomes very, very long. And what happens is that the car stays in the garage being worked on for a really, really long time and effectively never, and sometimes dies and never gets to market. We know there's it's well-documented statistics that projects over $1 million are much, much less likely to succeed. And so in our teams, despite our financial budgeting system not quite working this way for us yet, we've somehow managed to break things down into really small parcels to get that runway going and to get things out to market to build delivery confidence. But the only way we've been able to do that is to be really tight around scope. And the only way we've been able to be really tight around scope is to let the customer choose. And I will tell you a little story about that in a minute as to why the customer is so important, because everyone has a theory. Everyone has a theory about what's going to work in market, but it's only actually when you put it out there to see it, and to see how customers respond to it, that you can understand whether that was sufficient or insufficient scope. And the second reason Agile has been extremely powerful for us is that point I made before around working software. It just shuts down the noise. Lots and lots of stuff gets written in requirements documents that never ever get read, and we don't really know how it's going to work until we actually see it. And for me, that's been one of the most significant shifts for us. And just to give you another example of why Agile has been very powerful for us, it's in the transparency in terms of the governing of a project. And I think in Canberra we had a talk about, is Agile disciplined or is Agile not disciplined? And my view is that if it's executed well, it's extremely disciplined, and that is what gives people confidence in delivering, in the delivery of a project via Agile. And we've had many people who've not been as confident around Agile in our organisation who've started to learn that transparency is one of the reasons why it's really powerful. And so my example to give you on this one is actually a product that we launched yesterday called Your Home Loan 360. Remarkably low budget to achieve. It's a banker experience for our mobile home loan lenders to work with their customers on an iPad, and it allows them to plan and complete scenarios for buying a home or buying and investing. And the whole experience has been built with mobile lenders co-creating and helping us design it for their customer conversations and to deliver the value that's going to make the most difference for them. Great story, right? It's out in market, the mobile lenders love it, customers are starting to rave about it. But let me tell you, during the process of building it, we built it agile and we had stand-ups. I had a great lesson as a leader. I went to one of the stand-ups and the team were debating what they were going to do about a new card that had gone on the wall. And I said, well, what's that new card? Because we shouldn't be introducing new scope at this point. And they said, well, that card is because you've now made a decision about what security protocol and what security approach you want to use with this app. So we have to now go and rework what we built because that's not going to do what you said. So as a leader, like the powerful thing about Agile is that was only 2 weeks work for them to correct. But the powerful thing about Agile was I found out that I was actually holding up the project. And, you know, as a leader who wants great stuff to go out to market and to start to change our business, the transparency of that was really, really important, and it's quite powerful for driving pace and speed. Finally, 3 digital culture symbols and signals that we have worked with that have really transformed our team. And some of the team are here and will back me up on this. So these 3 symbols actually mean that, you know, I said at the beginning that incumbents are stuffy and they can't be like a digital startup or create a great dynamic environment. Well, we've been actually bringing people through our teams that we might want to hire and as part of the interview process, and the feedback has been, I didn't think a bank could be like this. So here are the 3 things that really make a difference in ANZ Digital. So the first one is social democratic, and we have a number of ways where we're using open forums, Facebook groups, really changing our comms, getting away from corporate comms, really opening up to allow for stand-up style feedback loops, etc. And that's been a very significant shift. It's not something we've done overnight, but over a couple of years, and we continue to try and break down that really formal corporate style of communication, allowing our people to communicate with anyone in the team. The second one's having really open borders. So a couple of years ago, digital was seen as a bunch of people in the corner doing stuff that wasn't really focused on what the rest of the organisation wanted. We made a deliberate choice to stay in our ANZ offices in Collins Street. We had a choice to go off to a cool, funky place that would be very digital, very startup. We made a deliberate choice to stay close to the whole of the organisation so that we could continue to transform the broader organisation. And part of our success in doing that has been having really open borders, bringing people through on floor walks, helping them come and see, getting them to come and see what we're building and how we're building it has quite significantly transformed other parts of the organisation, but also grown their understanding of what it takes to put something to market. The other good thing about that one, I alluded to before, is that you know, everyone's got a view. So lots of these guys and girls come through and they'll say, oh, I think you should put, you know, this button here or do something like that. And the best answer is, well, actually, we put it in market and this is the one that customers responded best to. And so it takes a lot of that opinion forming out and also shapes them to be more focused on the customer. And the final one's environment. And not a lot of people talk about this, I find, in terms of disruption and adapting for the future for digital. But we have significantly changed our property setup. We have put whiteboard paint on a number of the walls. We have, or in fact all the walls, we have walls for planning, we have roadmaps, we do have bean bags, we have strange chairs as well, different shapes, and we have open breakout sprint areas, and it's very, very clear that we have a much higher productivity from having those kinds of tools at our disposal. And so I'd encourage you to think about the environment that you're in and that you're creating for your people, because it has significantly increased collaboration. So in summary, oops, a bit too quick, there we go. So incumbents have more at their disposal than disruptors, but I think there are 3 things to remember as we for those of you who are part of an incumbent, as you lead transformation through to digital, removing customer friction at pace, fostering and being open to new ways of working, and investing in a social culture and environment to power your business for the digital age. And I'll leave you with one thought. So when we started this journey probably 2.5 years ago, there was so much to do and we were so not digital. We used to have this thing where a couple of the leaders and I would talk about, don't look up. Let's just look at what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? And I found this quote was really quite an encouragement. The courage is only the accumulation of small steps. So while I've given you a whole toolbox to look at and some perspectives on what to change, this has been a journey for us, and taking each of those small steps is what has led to where we've got to today, which is a very exciting place. Thank you.
I wanted to just share with you the different types of moments that we see on Twitter and how you can apply that in your everyday to your brand.
Two different entities are going to provide value to the audience, and that's the publisher and that's the brand. What can we both do together that's going to add extra value to the audience?